Yo, what's going on, guys? Cryptic TNG back with a brand new video. Today we're going to be talking about my upgrade from a Thrustmaster T300 to a V&M Premier direct drive wheel, all the pros and cons, and anything else that you might want to look out for if you do decide to make a similar upgrade that I have. Let's get stuck into the video. I know you guys were probably expecting me to make this video a little bit earlier, but I wanted to really give it time to marinate and give myself time to actually get used to the wheel, which I'm still doing, by the way. It's definitely not a quick process, but it's something that I'm enjoying, you know, finding out new things about the force feedback, little changes that I can make that's really helping the feeling. So yeah, let's really get stuck into what the differences is, the main differences that I've noticed, particularly on Le Mans Ultimate, because that's pretty much the game I play at. Yet to try it on other games, but one of the first things that you will notice when you go into a direct drive wheel, and I don't know if this is just me or the placebo effect, but I'm pretty sure it's definitely something I've noticed, and that is the front wheels feel more connected to the wheel and the direction change that you're actually making. Now, I believe that that is a thing with the T300 where in the center of the wheel it's kind of just numb. So that was one of the main reasons why I always ran a tighter ratio on the T300. If you are on a T300, I'm telling you right now, you need to run 400, 400. That is the go-to for LMU on the T300. I promise you that, at least, right? And that sort of took away the numbness in the center of the wheel, which was what I struggled with. If you guys know and seen in the past, I could never ever use the T300 at 900 degrees like what I'm using on the V&M right now, because you just, in the center of the wheel, it felt like it just doesn't turn. You would turn the wheel and it's almost about 30 or 40 degrees. The first 30 or 40 degrees the wheel does nothing, you know, whereas with the V&M direct drive wheel, it's way more reactive. So now I don't feel the need to run the tighter ratios. I've tried it, and for me it doesn't feel massively different, whereas with the T300 it made a massive difference running the tire angle in terms of pace. I was literally probably about a second and a half slower when I would run the T300 on 900 degrees, which is insane. But yes, what I would say is, using the V&M wheel, the front wheels feel way more connected to the actual steering inputs, and I always thought, you know, there's something off. When I was using the T300, there's definitely something off with the center of the wheel, and that was the feeling that I was missing. That little bit of weight, that little bit of pushback, I guess, sort of the spring effect where the wheel actually pushes back against you in the slow corners. In the tight corners, the T300 had nothing when you used that at 900. And even on ACC, that was something I struggled with. On ACC, I used to use 540. So I've never been a fan of using 900 degrees on a T300 because the responsiveness just is not there at all. Even when Prenter has come to my house before, he's tried my Thrustmaster, and he's someone that uses 900 degrees on his Fanatec wheel, and when he came to my house and tried the Thrustmaster at 900, he was a lot slower, and then he switched it to 540 and he was able to go a lot quicker. So I generally feel like it's just a thing with the T300. It's just not very responsive in the middle of the wheel, which is why it's just best to run tire angles. Another thing that I would say, maybe more of the things that I'm having to get used to, is although these wheels are quieter when you are driving in terms of like the gear shifts and stuff like that, when you rattle over curbs, and having a metal rig is definitely something that I'm trying to cure, because obviously I've got next door neighbors, and sometimes I might be on the game late after 12 or whatever, and I'm going over curbs and I'm literally vibrating the whole house. Now that's a problem I've never had to deal with before. So there is that. I think Dowking said that you can get some sort of mats to go underneath your rig that will absorb a lot of the vibrations and stuff. I'm definitely going to need that. I've got people that live underneath me, so that's one of the things that I was like, okay, I'm having to find settings in the game and on the wheel software that don't sort of rattle the curbs as much. And with the V&M, it doesn't have its own profile inside of LMU. If it did, then of course you can go into the game files and turn off the jolt magnitude and stuff like that, so it wouldn't make up so much noise and vibrate through the whole stand and through the whole house. That's something that I'm working on, trying to get a fix for, trying to figure out. Also, I did try the LMU force feedback app and try to compare it to the telemetry app for VNM, and there are some differences. I felt like whenever I used the LMU force feedback app, it was way too harsh. Now, when you compare the LMU force feedback app on a T300, it's night and day. It makes the wheel usable to the point where you can be competitive. And normally, I would just try and figure out force feedback on the game. But for LMU in particular, if you have a Thrustmaster T300, you 110% need the LMU force feedback app. It's not even a question. Like you need that app, because without it, the wheel you just cannot get the forces and the feel that you actually need. Now, when I use the VNM direct drive wheel, I don't actually need the LMU force feedback app. Obviously, I've got the telemetry app, but a lot of the forces that you don't feel in a Thrustmaster T300 are already there. Now, one of the main things I had to get used to is the weight. There's a lot more weight in the steering when you're on a direct drive wheel, particularly if you're using the full amount of Newton meters, which you should be doing. But what I did is I actually scaled it back a little bit. My wheel's a 30 Newton meter wheel, but I was using like 7, and then I would turn up the force feedback in game to try and give me some of the details back without too much weight. But again, you know, for me, the weight doesn't feel bad. The reason why I'm probably not driving it as heavy as I probably could is pretty much down to how much the curbs are vibrating through the stand, and don't want to be keeping up my neighbors at night. So that's literally the reason why I'm not running it as heavy as I would probably prefer to. And remember, normally I'm not someone who likes running a heavy wheel, but it does actually make a difference feeling those details, and you feel in control. Whenever I used to run the T300 heavy, it was like it was weight, but it wasn't detailed weight. So you've got extra weight, but all it's doing is just making it harder for you to go around fast corners, making it harder for you to, you know, get the car turned through certain tight corners. It was never like the weight is really helpful to me. Whereas on the VNM base, the weight is actually giving you the details that you need in the right way. And that's the main difference why I've always ran a light wheel, because a lot of the older bases, you know, the Thrustmasters, probably the Logitechs as well, they'll give you weight, but they're not giving you the detail. So it's just like wasted energy when you're driving around the track. Some people like that, but when you actually get on a direct drive wheel, if you haven't already, you will notice that, yeah, you need the details, not necessarily the heavy weight. I did try other people's settings, and guys, some of you guys on DD, I'm telling you, you guys must be legends in the gym, because, yo, I've had some of the heaviest settings I've ever experienced. Like, it's a gym workout, and I'm thinking, how do people drive like this, bro? How do you drive with so much resistance? Like, I tried Dowking settings. Wow. I was like, yo, there's no way you drive like this, bro. Literally no way. I even had a couple of people send me settings in Discord, and even then I was like, yo, these settings are crazy. And some of them have heavier, heavier wheels than me, like more Newton meters, 18 Newton meter wheels, and they drive with it so heavy. I'm like, yo, I don't get how you manage to adjust and get lap time out of that. But at the same time, you can feel all the details, so I know why they're doing it, you know. But again, it's just one of those things I'm probably going to get used to, and as I use the DD more, I'm probably going to get heavier and heavier and heavier in my settings. But what I will say is, naturally, it feels very natural to me. It doesn't feel like something that's going to be hard to get used to. The main thing that I was struggling with was slow corners, and that's pretty much because I'm using 900 degrees, and that's the only place I really noticed the big difference in the steering ratio that I'm using, you know. Normally, in the tight corners, I just flick the wheel left and the nose is in. Now, you know, I can be a lot more gradual with the turning, and I sort of feel like it just makes it more accurate, particularly when you're coming out of the corners and you're not using such a tight ratio, you can open up the wheel and you just don't get the TC cutting in as much, and it just feels a lot more comfortable getting on the power. So those are the things that I've noticed already. And certain tracks I was literally instantly faster. I did Catalunya, I was instantly faster. I used exact same setup, I was running max fuel in the same car, and I was instantly like 3-4 tenths quicker. And that was just because I was able to use 900 degrees. A lot of the corners I wasn't scrubbing the tires, and sometimes when you turn too much you're actually scrubbing off speed as well. So it's little things that you don't notice that, you know, when I would be on a Thrustmaster T300 where I'm not even noticing that I'm scrubbing speed, because to me I'm literally just pushing as hard as I can, whereas I feel a lot more relaxed on a D. I don't know why, I feel totally more relaxed in my steering, in my inputs, even my body feels less tense. Where I'm on a T300, because I'm fighting for the details in the wheel, I'm really tensed on the wheel, because at any stage you might get that little thing where the wheel goes numb and you just can't feel certain things, particularly through a corner like this. Those sorts of corners where the wheel goes really light, those are the really hard corners on like the T300, because it goes extremely light and you have to sort of go off of what you can see instead of what you can actually feel. And with the direct drive wheel, I'm just not having that experience at all. So let's try and jump onto the cons of having a direct drive wheel, which there pretty much isn't many, to be honest. The only thing I can really think of is if you're sort of someone who's just wants to quickly just jump in, plug and play and not mess about, it can be a little bit tedious, like going through the settings, really trying to fine tune the wheel, because it's definitely not as straightforward as it was for the older generation wheels. It's definitely a lot harder to get the feeling that you actually want, and you know, it takes time. You literally have to go through all the settings, really try and fine tune it to how you actually like it. Even now I don't have it perfect, but I'm a tinkerer, so it's not a problem for me. It's fine for me. You know, I've got no problem with going through settings individually, one by one, changing stuff, changing it back. I could do that stuff all day. You know, I'm someone, I'll prefer to build my own setups, so stuff like this is normal for me. But for a lot of people that maybe they're just casual players or whatever, they might find it a little tedious to have to try and find all these settings and not really know how to, you know, tune the car for themselves. And as I said, for me, I don't have a problem with it. I went through literally hours of tuning on the LMU force feedback app on the T300 to get that feeling pretty decent, you know. So not really a problem for me, but I can see why some people would maybe not be that happy having to do that. But you know, it's well worth it in my opinion. It's well worth it. And I generally do think that if you are going from an older generation wheel to a direct drive wheel, I think the majority of people are going to end up, after maybe a couple of weeks, they're going to end up being faster. They're going to definitely end up being faster, because not because you're a faster driver, but you just have more feel. So with more feel comes more confidence. So it just is what it is. I'm trying to think of any con right now. I generally cannot think of a single con why, if you have the chance, why you wouldn't upgrade, because it's one of the probably the best upgrade you can make. Now I've upgraded my pedals and stuff, and that was great. Probably pedals do find you a lot of time, but I generally do think that, you know, your wheelbase will find you a lot of time on the current generation of games. If you're playing like a game that's like a Simcade and stuff like that, then I actually think T300s, the old school Logitechs, they're probably decent. You know, they're probably still decent, because a lot of those games, they don't really have like the real proper like understeer effects and stuff like that. Anything that is, you know, up to date, current, is more simulation. Yeah, you need a direct drive wheel. I can literally document the time that the Thrustmaster T300 went from being a usable, decent option on ACC to being completely dead in the water, and I could tell it was dead in the water, you know. And it seemed like I watched people upgrade their wheels, and people that were maybe half a second off me when we were all using Thrustmasters, all of a sudden I couldn't even catch them, couldn't keep up with them. I had no consistency compared to them, and that's just something that just seemed to happen on ACC, and I was thinking like, there's no way that I've just got slow all of a sudden. But then a lot of people upgraded during that long run that ACC had, and I didn't, you know. And remember, I've had the T300 since 2015, so this is a wheel that's 11 years old. And I can tell you, on games like Project Cars and stuff, fine, you could use the T300, you can use that and be rapid, no problem whatsoever. Nowadays, don't get me wrong, there's some people that are rapid on their set wheels. I think I know that Marius uses a T300 right now, and I know that there's another guy that we know called Vietti Napoleon, I think his name is. He uses, I think he's got a Logitech, so he's got an older wheel and he's rapid. I think he's like second on the time trial, second on the leaderboards at Fuji right now, and he's on an older wheel. These guys are rapid, insane. But if you was to put those guys on a direct drive wheel, maybe they don't find half a second, but their consistency would be insane. I can guarantee that their consistency would definitely find another level, you know. And that's just what it is, man. So I can't complain, lads. I can't complain. It's definitely well worth it. If you're someone who's thinking, is it worth buying? It is definitely worth buying. You're gonna improve. You're also gonna enjoy the experience of driving a lot more, you know. And once you get those force feedback settings dialed in, you'll never look back. It's just like, you know, when people weren't sure about making the move from console to PC, and once they finally did, they just never look back. And it's the same sort of thing, you know. Once you make that change, you start to feel what you were missing all this time. I even feel like going to play all the other games that I've uninstalled just so I, you know, could feel what it felt like to be on those games with a direct drive wheel, you know, because my experience has always been the T300, you know. So definitely something that I want to look into. But guys, that's my experience so far. I would definitely keep you guys updated. I did want to leave it a little bit to let it marinate, so, you know, I could experience the wheel more. Next, I'm definitely going to be doing like a sort of little review of the Conspit wheel, because I think the wheel's pretty damn good, man. I can't lie. I'm loving the rim at the moment, and I'm loving my experience with the VNM at the moment, so I'll be making more videos about that. But anyway, guys, leave your comments in the comment section below. If you are on an older wheel, wondering whether it's worth it or not, trust me, make that decision, lads. You will not regret it. Anyway, guys, CryptoTNG, like and subscribe, hit the notification bell to catch my videos first, and peace.
I can't wait to truly